Welcome to a real cult classic where we talk about, well, your favorite cult classics, a little bit of pop culture, a smattering of old Hollywood gossip, with a side of scandal and intrigue. I'm your esteemed cult leader, Megs, from the Cult of Megs on the Old Ticker Talkers, and this is my friend, your friend, cult elder Auntie Amy. Amy, say hi to the cult.
Hello, friends.
We've got a fun one this week. We have decided to dabble into two of our favorite historical dynasties. We usually like to do a little weekly catch up, but how long is your dynasty this week, Amy?
I think I'm getting better at, you know, carving it down, but I don't know. We'll see. I
We'll
This
see.
one is going to inspire maybe some tangents. I'm pretty heated about it, you know?
That's fair enough. It's good to
Yeah,
be passionate,
like fired up, not angry. I just
like the
love this
fire of a
stuff.
thousand dragons.
That's right. We're really like, there's no mystery anymore. I think people can guess already
They
what
might,
this
I don't think
is.
they're going to be able to guess what mine is.
No.
They'll know what yours is.
Yours is going to be a sweet surprise. How has your week been going?
My week's been okay. I got tattooed on Sunday.
Nice. By the usual suspect?
Yeah, by Alexis.
Megan, I don't have any tattoos.
You don't.
What would you imagine my first tattoo to be if I got one? Like, what can you picture on my
Oh, it will be
body?
Dalmatian related. Either
Am I
that
that
or I know,
predictable?
yeah, that Alexis just did a flash sheet of X-Men Cupid dolls. I could see you getting
Yes.
an X-Men tattoo.
My favorite X-Men is Storm, but I
Mm-hmm.
also love Rogue.
Mm-hmm.
And I also really love Nightcrawler and Psylocke.
I
I
feel
love
like you
them.
have Rogue hair. Like you and Rogue have like this
I
really cool
I do have Rogue hair now.
Hollywood hair.
Hollywood hair. Although I feel like your fans would argue that you have Hollywood hair. You are your hair is very loved and often requested. Even the style and the cut name. You
Right?
need
Which is
like,
interesting because somebody said it looked like they loved my disheveled bedhead. And I was like, I work very hard for this disheveled bed.
so do the French. This is
Hmm.
effortless beauty we're talking about.
It
And
takes a lot of effort.
speaking of beauty, Megan,
Hmm.
you convinced me to purchase something that ended up selling out almost immediately. We went to the Mac store and I got
Hmm.
Flesh Pot and you got two colors, didn't you?
I did.
Two lipsticks?
I got I got two of the like new 40th anniversary Mac ones.
You got the really cool topper that's like
That's
gray
very
black or something.
90s.
Yeah, not
What were they
bubbles, right?
called? I think I got Hot Gossip because I love like a pinky
Yes.
lipstick. Oh, I got Haku.
Yes, which is very sold out as well.
Also, yeah, but they have Flesh Pot and they had Bubbles at the Mac in Metrotown. So when one of our favorite beauty gurus online, Erin Parsons, said that she paid $150 on eBay, I was like, oh, we should have bought them for Erin.
Yeah, we
Should have
nearly
sent them to
fainted.
Erin. Yep.
And I felt so bad because I was humming and hawing. I wanted a sort of concealer lipstick, and you're the one who brought up Flesh Pot,
Hmm.
which is beautiful. I love the consistency of it, and it also has like that, as Aaron pointed out, a peachy kind of undertone to it. But when I was there, there were two. They were full up with
And
Flesh
they had
Pot.
Bubbles like
I
on
know
the stand.
they had one bubbles on the stand, and I
And I
think they
was
had
tempted to buy it, remember? Because
yes.
everybody was selling it out, even though it is not my shade. I kind of wanted to hoard it a bit, but I thought, no, Megan, leave it. Leave it for somebody who would appreciate bubbles.
Yeah, I mean, I also appreciate it. I mean, it would just be a top, I don't know, wouldn't get much use. I feel like you get more use out of it than I would.
I'm so pale that I feel like stuff like that washes me out.
Yeah, I'm pale too, my friend.
Although we do need to procure you a stone lip liner because that
Yeah,
is a
what's up,
thousand
Mac?
percent an Amy color.
Yes. Yeah, I went for the sale and it was the one lip liner that was sold out. I mean, that makes sense. Everybody and their mother is using it on TikTok, so I get it, but endless cacao, it's only so many times I
Hmm.
can wear that in a day. I need something
You
a
need
little
something a little bit
different.
different.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. My wherever walnut is also, I mean, that's more fall for me. Anyway, I have to warm up that concealer lipstick, Megan.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought that was so funny. We can sell our stuff on eBay, but now they're properly sold out. I don't think we'd even find it at Metrotown. That's where we got ours.
Yeah, in case anybody's lurking around Burnaby.
That was a good shopping excursion.
It was. We have fun. We spend a lot of money together.
Yes, we do. Between makeup, books, and jelly cats,
Mm-hmm.
I need to really rein it in. Although I buy jelly cats for other people, I only recently bought one for myself.
You did buy me my first jelly cat.
I did. He was so cute. But that's because you kept saying you wanted one.
I
A little
did.
pot-bellied pig.
Amy got me a little kune kune pig, which are my favorite
That's right.
pigs.
That's
And
right.
and then Nate, my husband, bought me a little pumpkin. You were the gateway drug. He bought me a cute little pumpkin because I wasn't feeling well for Halloween. And then I just bought myself a little black cat from the Vancouver Public Library. They have a little store called Bookmark, and you can go get cards there. And they had the black cat I had been looking for. So it's like, well, I mean, if the money goes to the library, then it's a worthwhile purchase.
Hey,
It's a
exactly.
donation.
It is a donation. A win-win. Also, Megan, I did send you the Ninja slushy machine that is only available in the US right now, but I feel like you and I should co-own one.
Right? You
I would
can make
prefer that.
frappes in it.
I know you could make I feel like maybe even a college degree in that thing. I want it more than a Ninja Creamy. I couldn't believe the options on that sucker. Could barely fit on
I do
the
still want a
side
Ninja
of it.
Creamy though.
I do, but it's to me, it's the you have to freeze it and wait like 24 hours. Like
That's why you have to just have a shelf in your freezer that you can have backups in,
it's true.
right?
And
I feel like once you get it going.
yeah, yeah, you have to be a planner, and
And when you have
unfortunately, I'm just
like
not.
a house with people with dietary restrictions, which we both do, I feel like
Yeah,
a Ninja Creamy basically pays for itself. You can do a little gelato, you can do a little fresh fruit. Somebody made like a fresh fruit peach sorbet.
yeah. Oh yeah, no, they seem incredible, but they're also very loud. And the
They
slushy
are.
machine apparently is not as loud, and that is a
Oh,
bonus for
we could make
us.
frozen margaritas in it, I bet.
Oh my gosh. And then we can do a drunk podcast episode, like drunk history.
Mm-hmm.
I would love to do that. Also, I went to Ernest Ice Cream for the first time this summer,
Mm-hmm.
and I went to get the thing that I love, my lemon tart ice cream, and they told me that that was last month's ice cream flavor. And I said, okay, well, when is it coming back? They're like next year.
You
And I
didn't check
went,
before you went?
what? Why is this a sort of toss-up flavor? This should be the base, part of the base selection. This should be next to vanilla. It is so good. They had a few pints, but I was explaining to my friend that it's not the same. I want
Which
somebody to
location did you
scoop
go
it.
to?
I went to the one on Fraser Street
What back
in,
cat? Oh no, you wanted a pint. They have, yeah, they have a pint. They have raspberry though. Have you ever had their raspberry?
mm, I don't think so. I don't love fruit ice cream as much. I would get that in like I don't know.
Their raspberry with a scoop of raspberry and a scoop of the Tahitian vanilla. It's like
Oh,
having
that's
a raspberry creamsicle.
okay. That's a nice combo. I often get my like secondary flavor is matcha green tea. I
Hmm.
love that. But they also had a flavor that was cream cheese.
I saw that.
And I don't know. It's too much of a gamble. I know you can get the little testers, but I just feel
You'd have
like,
to have something on it, I think. Like you'd have to have some sort of a
yeah,
compote or with a nut,
yeah,
like maybe a scoop of chocolate, maybe a scoop of
yeah,
raspberry or raspberry cream cheese.
something.
They also did
Yeah.
one with like spruce. Somebody harvested spruce needles. Sometimes it's a bit out there. They used to do a lemon
Oh,
curd that I loved.
oh, see, anything lemon, I'm just like, I'm there for it. We'll have to go. We'll have to
Okay.
go.
I have 3 jars I have to return.
Oh, so you've been this summer.
No, I think they're from a while ago.
Oh, God. It's okay. Glass doesn't expire.
It just rolls around the back of our car and we go, we should really go to Ernest. So, Amy, let's move from fun summer things to violence and despair as you tell us about what I like to call the game of the dragons dynasty.
Yes. Yes. Well, let me tell you, when you brought up the idea of covering famous dynasties, I immediately knew that there was only one family tree that I wanted to deep dive, and that family tree belongs to the Targaryens. Every time I hear the Targaryen theme music, I feel like I can do anything, when in reality, I can't do much. But it is so epic and inspiring and beautiful and harrowing. The music for Game of Thrones is top notch. Before I get into this, I will caution you, cultlings, that there may be spoilers. Not so much as I'm talking about the family tree, but I may go on tangents because I get excited. So you're warned, and I will add additional warnings if I feel like, I'm getting into territory that maybe you don't want to know about. I'm sure many of us are watching House of the Dragon right now, airing Sunday evenings on HBO, 6 p.m. PST, 9 p.m. EST. And although House of the Dragon is a prequel series to Game of Thrones, our first experience with the Targaryen name was in GOT with Daenerys Targaryen and her brother Viserys. And Viserys endured probably the most horrific death, I think, maybe in the whole series. Thank you, Jason Momoa. Megan, do you remember this death?
I don't. There are so many people in Game of Thrones and Game of Dragons. I don't know who is who except for my face sake, Arya Stark.
Right. Okay, well, it includes melted gold from the source of a crown being poured on his head. Your face says, I've conjured a memory.
It conjured a memory because also there is like weird crossover between our two dynasties, and this is one of them. But now that you've mentioned it, I'm going to bring it up in mind. So, but continue, please.
I don't know how that is a crossover, but I cannot wait to learn. Yeah, my husband also forgot about this when I talked to him about it this morning, and he decided to watch a clip while eating oatmeal, and it was not a good choice. Not a good choice. Now, Daenerys and Viserys were the last Targaryens in Westeros, or so we believed. It was revealed by Samwell Tarly that Jon Snow was the son of Rhaegar Targaryen and Lyanna Stark, making him Daenerys's nephew and the prince that was promised, Alicent Hightower. Anyway, the three dragons, Drogon, Rhaegal, and Viserion, were indeed the last dragons, unless, George R. R. Martin wants to bring in some extra lore, maybe toss in a few more dragon eggs. I was really sad when they ended. Anyway, the family was referenced quite heavily, especially the Mad King that Jaime Lannister took out, the Kingslayer after all. It definitely whet the appetite of audiences to get a Targaryen specific show. At least for me, I was obsessed with the lore of the Targaryen family while I was watching Game of Thrones. I wanted to know more about them, and I have to say, I am loving the new series. Megan, are you enjoying it?
I am, because I actually know what's kind of going on. I can
Yeah.
follow it a little bit.
Yeah, it's great. Now, while GOT was adapted from 5 books, it became such a phenomenon that it outran George R. R. Martin's ability to finish the novels. So there are still only 5 of the 7 published, even though new covers and a box set were recently revealed, and the art is amazing. I may actually buy them, even though I own all of them already. Now, George published the 5th book when GOT aired for the first time, I think I watched an interview with him and he was feeling really confident. He was like, I'm 5 books ahead. There's no way I can't finish Winds of Winter and A Dream of Spring before the show ends. And that didn't happen. The good thing about the show was that George R. R. Martin was heavily involved. So he did meet with the writers and the showrunners and gave them the major beats that they would need to wrap up the story. And I know a lot of people were, I guess, displeased with the last season, especially what happened with Daenerys and Jon Snow. But George maintained, at least in this interview, that that would be how he would end his books. That plot line would remain true. He said the differences would be felt more in the secondary characters. So there you go. There you have it. Now, House of the Dragon was adapted from a history book titled Fire and Blood, not a narratively driven series like A Song of Ice and Fire and Game of Thrones. So the writers, I feel like, have more room to expand on and perhaps deviate from the source material a little bit. And George R. R. Martin is a creator and executive producer on the show, so he's heavily involved. Now, House of the Dragon is set 200 years before Game of Thrones. So, definitely not an insignificant amount of time, and definitely a lot of time for a bunch of silver haired kids to be born with the same names to confuse us all. They share names and incestual leanings. Okay? We just have to accept that. Moving on. So I will say that before I get into the family tree, I promise I'm not going to go beyond Aegon, Viserys' son. So I won't spoil what happens because if I go beyond him, you're going to know who wins between the greens and the blacks. And I may go into that in a separate, maybe an intermission episode so that if you do want that, you can listen to it or you can avoid it entirely. So we know the Targaryens as an extremely powerful family, but that wasn't always the case. They came from Valyria, which was the greatest city in the known world. And there, they were one of 40 noble families, noted for their ability to tame and ride dragons, as well as possessing a voice in the governing of the freehold. But unlike the Targaryens we know in the House of the Dragon, they were one of about 12 families able to ride and tame dragons. And in Valyria, there were other sources of power that were threatening, like sorcery, dark arts. They also lacked the influence to convince the noble houses to leave Valyria when Aenar, Targaryen's maiden daughter, Daenys, the Dreamer, foresaw the city's doom and destruction by fire in a dream. Now, Aenar took his wives, children, wealth, and his dragons and escaped to Dragonstone, which their rivals in Valyria deemed as cowardly. This is when Aenar got the name Aenar the Exile. But joke's on them because the dreamy prophecy did in fact come true in 12 years' time, making the Targaryens the only dragon lords to survive. So between Aenar and Aegon the Conqueror, referenced many times in House of the Dragon, I'm sure you recognize that name, there was Gaemon Targaryen, husband and brother to Daenys, the Dreamer, who followed Aenar as Lord of Dragonstone. Now, he became known as Gaemon the Glorious. His son Aegon and his daughter Elaena ruled together after his death. After Aegon and Elaena, the lordship passed to their son Maegor, his brother Aerys, and Aerys' son Aelix, Balon, and Damian. The last of the three brothers was Damian, whose son Aerion then succeeded to Dragonstone. Okay, so that's just a bit of family stuff before we get to the good stuff. So here's where the legend comes in. So Aegon the Conqueror of his mother's uterus was born on Dragonstone in 27 BC. He was the only son and second child of Aerion, Lord of Dragonstone and Lady Valenna of House Velaryon. Aegon had two true-born sisters, an elder sister, Visenya, and a younger sister, Rhaenys. In keeping with Valyrian tradition, Aegon wed both sisters. He was only expected to marry his eldest sister, but they say he did so more out of duty and he married his younger sister out of desire, spending 10 nights with her for every one with Visenya. So he clearly had a favorite. It was unusual, but not without precedent, this double wife thing. Now, Visenya was a known warrior, as fearsome as Aegon himself. She carried the long sword Dark Sister and possessed a harsh beauty. She was serious and unforgiving and dabbled in dark sorceries, which I love. Now, meanwhile, Rhaenys was the opposite. Playful, curious, she loved dancing and poetry, but above all, she loved flying with her dragon and spent the most time on Dragonback out of the three of them. And speaking of dragons, unfortunately, only one of the dragons that Aenar the Exile had flown from Valyria had survived, and that was the big boy Balerion, also known as the Black Dread. The remaining two dragons, Vhagar, who we have complicated feelings about presently, I just want to acknowledge that, and Meraxes were younger and hatched on Dragonstone itself. So Aegon rode Balerion, Visenya rode Vhagar, and Rhaenys rode Meraxes. You know that big war table in the House of Dragon, the House of the Dragon that they light with fire and it reveals the map of Westeros? So Aegon had that made. He was properly obsessed with the West, while his predecessors were concerned with happenings in the East. Now, during Aegon's youth, Westeros was divided into 7 kingdoms, and there was always one or two that had beef. The most feared of the kings was Black Heron, who ruled the Riverlands. This guy was a mean SOB and spent his 40 years of reign building Harrenhal, draining resources and labor from his own lands to do so. So I guess we can blame him for the boring side quest of Daemon in the last 3 episodes of House of the Dragon. So, what happened in this famous conquest of Aegon's? Essentially, Aegon called his allies to Dragonstone. There, with his sisters, they took counsel, and after 7 days, ravens were sent to 7 kings with the message, from this day forth, there would be but one king in Westeros. Those who bent the knee to Aegon of House Targaryen would keep their lands and titles. Those who took up arms against him would be thrown down, humbled, and destroyed. Now, Aegon had some allies, but many of the kings rejected his claim, and a series of bloody battles ensued. No matter how large Aegon's opponents' armies were, they didn't have dragon power, which proved instrumental in securing Aegon's ultimate victory. Think of the destruction Vhagar causes in the House of the Dragon. Vhagar is the 3rd largest dragon of the 3. Balerion and Meraxes are both bigger than she is. So just imagine the 3 of them together. Now, remember Harren the Black? Well, his people, who he had terrorized, especially in his craze to build Harrenhal, turned against him and joined with Aegon. Suddenly outnumbered, King Harren took refuge in this newly finished Harrenhal, the largest castle in Westeros. It had an inexhaustible source of fresh water, provisions, and massive walls of black stone higher than any ladder could reach. Harren emerged to meet with Aegon, and here's how that exchange went. And this is taken from the book The World of Ice and Fire by George R. R. Martin. Yield now, Aegon began, and you may remain as Lord of the Iron Islands. Yield now, and your sons will live to rule after you. I have 8,000 men outside your walls. What is outside my walls is of no concern to me, said Harren. Those walls are strong and thick, but not so high as to keep out dragons. Dragons fly, Aegon said. I built in stone, said Harren. Stone does not burn. To which Aegon replied, when the sun sets, your line shall end. So Harren spat at him and returned to his castle. He dined with his sons and sent his remaining men to guard the castle and bring the dragon down with, bows and arrows, I guess. They waited, and just when they thought Aegon came with empty threats, Aegon dove down from the sky on Balerion, blasting fire at them all. Stone does not burn, but the castle was not made of stone alone. Wood and wool, hemp and straw, bread and salted beef, and grain and humans caught fire. Harren and his last sons died in the fire, his precious castle ruined the day it was finally finished after 40 years of building. Now, there were other houses that bent the knee after battles, too many to mention, but I'll include the Lannisters because we know them, and the Starks. Now, the Starks technically marched to battle, but after news of Harrenhal and Fields of Fire, which was perhaps the largest and bloodiest battle, they decided not to press on. They decided that the dragons would obliterate them, and they were absolutely right. Now, as Aegon promised, even if a house went against him, if they bent the knee after their loss, he would let them keep their lands and assets. I mean, he was a fair king. Like, I mean, people ended up loving him. But King Torrhen Stark bent the knee and became Lord of Winterfell and Warden of the North, a king no more. And from that day, he was known as the King Who Knelt. Now, some of the Northmen sneered at him for it. They're very, very proud. Now, the only house that refused to bend the knee was Dorne, and they never did. And they were allowed to not bend the knee. So they were governing themselves. Regardless, the seven kingdoms of Westeros hammered into one great realm by the will of Aegon the Conqueror, who was 27 years old, alongside his sisters. While his subjects thought he might rule from Old Town, remember the High Towers, or Dragonstone, Aegon chose to make his court in the New Town, beneath the three hills at the mouth of the Blackwater Rush, at the place where he and his sisters had first set foot on the soil of Westeros. King's Landing, the new town was called. It's here that Aegon ruled, holding court from a great metal seat made from the melted, twisted, beaten, and broken blades of his fallen foes, the Iron Throne. Famous, famous seat. Now, something that was cool about Aegon is that rather than attempting to unify the realm under one set of laws, he respected the differing customs of each region and attempted to judge as their past kings might have. Despite one Dornish war, Aegon ruled in relative peace, and well, his legacy is perhaps the strongest of all the Targaryens. And we know that Aegon was the one who had the vision, the Song of Ice and Fire. And that is who Viserys quoted when talking about the prince that was promised, and that he tormented himself over Rhaenyra and choosing Rhaenyra because he just had this idea of a prince. Um, so yeah, his presence is felt through both series that we're watching. Now he passed away at 64 due to a stroke, and the crown went to Aenys, his son with Rhaenys. Now, Aenys was a sickly child, and because of this, rumors spread that he wasn't even Aegon's true child. But when Aenys bonded with his dragon Quicksilver, he grew up to be a strong dreamer like his dad. He was charming, talented, and clever, even making his half-brother Maegor his hand, bequeathing him the sword of their father, Blackfyre, which is the same sword that Aegon, that, you know, burnt to a crisp king that we know very well, was sporting in the last fight against Meleys. It was a smart political move, knowing that Maegor was an impressive warrior and would make a better ally than a foe. He married Alyssa Valerian, had 6 children, but suffered rebellions and assassination attempts. His subjects turned against him when his brother Maegor took on a second wife secretly. Aenys was forced to exile his stepbrother, and he in turn fled to Dragonstone. He died of sickness, and people actually thought that Visenya, Aegon's wife and sister, killed him with poison because she wanted to place her son Maegor on the throne. Who knows? Maegor then took up the mantle as king, and he was named Maegor the Cruel, and not for nothing. Now, he rode Balerion, as we know, which was once ridden by his father, Aegon, and he wielded his father's sword. Now, his reign was bloody and childless. No matter how many brides he took on, he couldn't have any. Now, one of the accomplishments was that he finished the Red Keep, but even that turned bloody. He basically held a huge dinner and festivities for the masons and carvers who built it, and after 3 days of celebrating, he put them all to the sword so that he could ensure the secrets of the keep, because they had all these tunnels and things and paths that he didn't want to get out. Nice. His nephew, Prince Aegon, who really should have been king after his father passed away, which was Aenar, attempted to win back his throne and died in battle, along with his dragon Quicksilver. Maegor also killed his other nephew, Prince Viserys, who was his squire, and ultimately met his end when he was overthrown and either killed by his own Kingsguard, or it was speculated that he may have even unalived himself with the throne that he was sitting on, because that's where he was found, with his wrists sort of cut and, yeah, bloody, bloody. Now, next was Jaehaerys the Conciliator, and you'll remember him from the pilot episode of The House of the Dragon. He was the remaining son of Aenys, the youngest, I believe, and he became king because Maegor had no children. He was young, 14, and wanted to marry his sister, Alysanne. The faith of the Seven, the dominant religion in Westeros, was against this idea of marrying, incest, basically, and they had been that way since Aenys. But Jaehaerys did so anyway. He married Alysanne in secret. He then instituted the doctrine of exceptionalism when he came of age, which was basically a law that meant only Targaryen royals could marry their siblings. He made peace between crown and faith, something Maegor had nearly destroyed. And Jaehaerys also created the first unified code so that the realm shared a single rule of law, unlike Aegon the Conqueror. Jaehaerys was a formidable ruler, and he rode Vermithor, the dragon Vermithor. Now, that's a dragon that is currently riderless in House of the Dragon and will play a big part in the days to come. As you know, Rhaenyra is trying to find riders with some Targaryen blood so that they can have them seated and have some extra dragon power. Well, Vermithor is a big boy, so we'll see. His queen, Jaehaerys's queen, Alysanne, was also well loved by her subjects. They ruled together for 46 years, were very in love. She passed before him, but they had many children. But by the end, he was only left with four: Prince Aemon, Prince Baelon, Archmaester Vhagar, and Princess Alyssa. Now, Vhagar, you'll remember from Game of Thrones because he was an Archmaester at the Wall with Jon Snow. So he was like one of the last living descendants of Targaryen blood as well. But he died, I think, quite early. So Aemon was named heir. Baelon and Alyssa married each other, that doctrine of exceptionalism working overtime, and Vhagar became an Archmaester, as we just discussed. When Aemon died in a battle in Myr, Jaehaerys made Baelon the new Prince of Dragonstone, essentially taking it from Aemon's daughter, Rhaenys, R.I.P., sweet Rhaenys, who had just married Corlys Velaryon. Man, these names are a tongue twister. So Baelon's wife, Alyssa, had recently perished in giving birth to their third child, leaving Viserys and Daemon motherless. So Baelon and Alyssa are Viserys and Daemon's parents. Then Baelon died of appendicitis. And there is some theory that Otto Hightower was complicit in maybe poisoning Baelon so that he can move himself up as hand to the king. And we're not putting anything against we're not doubting the Hightower's ambitious streak at this point. I would fully believe that to be true. Lacking a clear heir, Jaehaerys called the First Great Council to put the matter to bed, and this is what was described in the pilot. They gathered at Harrenhal. Lords, great and small, came along with knights and squires, basically everybody. Two primary candidates were considered: Laenor Velaryon, son of Princess Rhaenys, who was the eldest daughter of Jaehaerys' eldest son, and Prince Viserys, who was the eldest son of Baelon the Brave and Princess Alyssa, as we know, just a reminder. And we know who won. We know who became king. It was Viserys, and played by Paddy Considine, who is one of my favorite actors of all time. And Viserys took the mantle from Jaehaerys 2 years after the decision was made. And we know how that kind of goes. So just a quick summary on Viserys's reign. So ultimately, he was obsessed with the idea of having a son as an heir because he wanted to really secure his line of succession, even though he had Rhaenyra. But we know how misogyny and patriarchy is prevalent even in fantasy worlds. He wanted a son so badly that he claimed he dreamed about said son, and his wife Emma died in childbirth. She was in fact carrying a son, but ultimately the child did not live, and neither did his wife, and it was horrible for both him and Rhaenyra. But in the end, he did name Rhaenyra his heir and Princess of Dragonstone, which enraged his brother Daemon, who assumed he would be next in line, but he had some problems. He had impulse control issues. We know this. And just as a little nod to Balerion, the giant dragon that belonged to Aegon the Conqueror, do you remember the scene? It's like beautiful candles lit, and there's a giant dragon's head, and Viserys pulls Rhaenyra aside, and he asks her to look at the dragon and to tell him what she sees. And based on that answer, he decides to make her heir, and that's Balerion's head. So, fun little fact, Balerion was bonded to Viserys. Now, Balerion was the last dragon of the Valyria kind of rule, and he was quite old. So Viserys only got to ride him for 1 year before he died. So Balerion, the biggest dragon ever, but you get to see him at least fossilized or whatever. Um, so back to this. So yeah, so Daemon is pissed. He's not going to be heir to the throne. And in the meantime, Viserys took on a new wife, Alicent Hightower, love her, and had four more children, Aegon, Helena, Aemond, and Daeron. I don't know. At this point, I'm not even going to pretend like I know. This child was only briefly mentioned in a recent House of the Dragon episode. It was like when Otto was released from his hand duties, he was like, I'll escape back to Old Town, and perhaps we have a chance with your fourth child. He might bend to my will better. So we'll see if he makes an appearance. He also has a dragon. So Rhaenyra was pushed to marry Laenor Velaryon, even though he preferred the company of men. As a result, Rhaenyra had three sons, Jacaerys, Lucerys, and Joffrey, with Sir Harwin Strong, captain of the Gold Cloaks. It's so obvious that they're not Laenor's kids. They resemble him in every way, and this puts into question their legitimacy, which then puts into question Rhaenyra's legitimacy, and that's already flimsy because she's a woman and people don't want a woman at the helm. So it's bad news bears. Meanwhile, Prince Daemon married Laenor's sister, Laena, after the death of his first wife, and had twin daughters, Baela and Rhaena. Then Laenor was killed in a fight with his lover, and it was a ruse that was set up by Daemon and Rhaenyra so that she was free to marry Daemon, and Laenor was free to live his life fully, with his lover. Even though he traded in his dragon Sea Smoke, and I don't think there's any lover that could ever prompt me to give up my dragon. Just saying. Now, Daemon and Rhaenyra got married before the proper mourning period and had two more sons, Aegon, God, they love that name, and Viserys, named after her dad, which is always the sweet scene in that last episode where they're together, where she introduces her son Viserys to an ailing, nearly dead Viserys. So while Rhaenyra's son's legitimacy was called into question, Alicent Hightower worked to embolden her son's claim to the throne. She quickly married him to his sister Helena, and she had twins, Jaehaerys and Jaehaera. In the book, they also have another son. And in that horrible Blood and Cheese episode, she's meant to pick between the sons, and she chooses the youngest son because she thinks, like Sophie's Choice, he's lived less, he'll understand less. And Blood and Cheese hear her, and then they kill the older son. So a little bit different between the books and the series there. Now, when Viserys died, the Hightowers worked quick and installed Aegon as king before word could reach Princess Rhaenyra. He usurped the throne, and a civil war began, and that's where we are in the show currently, in the midst of battles and scheming and betrayals, and now the war has gone fully to the dragons, and it's very stressful to watch. And that's what I've got for you.
That was a lot. I feel like you've been to war covering that. I honestly don't understand how you keep all of these people straight. Like I reference the lineage online while I'm watching it because they all like look pasty and ill and I don't know who is who. And yet somehow your brain just clocks all of it. I'm very impressed, Amy.
Well, I was saying to you that I think you'll appreciate this because we both love Jurassic Park, but I feel like Caraxes has a very distinct sound, like a dragon roar that's like very clicky and shrieky. I mean, they all have a very distinct a sound, and I just like want to collect them all. But yeah, I mean, there's like, and what's going to be really cool about the upcoming episodes, again, it's like the dragon seeds and finding dragon riders to fill the seats of the riderless dragons. And we've got Sea Smoke, we've got Vermithor, we have Sheep Stealer. Like there's so many. and there's baby ones. So
Little
it's
baby dragons.
little baby dragons, but there is a character with sheep stealer that is supposed to be Nettles. I think that's the name. And I don't think they wrote Nettles in. And apparently Nettles is a really cool character. Anyway, okay, I'm gonna stop talking now.
Well, I have
I'm
quite the dynasty for you, Amy. My dynasty is a little bit different than yours, and also because I watch Game of the Dragon, I don't understand half of what's going on, but you, I don't believe, delve into this world at all. So,
no, and to your point, I think this is really funny. I can remember dragon names and, anything fantasy related. When it comes to reality television and actual people, I need your guide and tutelage. I need to be your pupil, I think, before I go into this, which I will.
welcome because we're going to talk about the Vanderpump dynasty today. Now, I do have to say that, or as I'm calling it, the Vanderpump Vanguard. Now, it's been going on for over a decade, and so I'm just going to cover like the highlights, the things that I find really interesting or that have been like big shakeups within the both Lisa's Real Housewives world and her spin-off show. So, Lisa Jane Vanderpump was born on September 15th, 1960 in London, England. As a child, she studied ballet and attended the Corona Academy Drama School, making her uncredited film debut in a show or movie called A Touch of Class. Interestingly enough, because she comes really wealthy. She would continue to appear in commercials and shows like Baywatch Nights throughout the 80s and 90s, which like shouldn't surprise me, but I was surprised by because I didn't know this part of her origin like story before she became a reality TV star. She met her husband, Ken Todd, in May of 1982. They were married 3 months after meeting. They got engaged right away. And they do have quite the age gap. Lisa was 21 and Ken was 37, but they are still married today. Like, very much in love with each other, which is incredibly sweet.
I don't have any problems with that.
Right? They meshed. And there are rumors on it's pretty funny because online there's a soccer player named or a football player named Ken Todd, and people think that Lisa's Ken was like this professional soccer player, but he wasn't. They're two different people. Even the Daily Fail has confused them, which I find pretty funny, but the Daily Dish, which is the Bravo blog, has made a post dispelling the rumors. The pair met when they were at Ken's first bar, Cork's Wine Bar, so it's unsurprising that the pair would go on to build a restaurant empire together. In 2005, Lisa and Ken, who had relocated to Beverly Hills, partnered up with another husband and wife business duo, Guillermo and Natalie, in opening up a new restaurant in West Hollywood, WeHo, called Sir, which Amy stands for Sexy Unique Restaurant, because I know you were wondering.
Sexy, unique restaurant.
Just
Okay. Thank
okay.
you.
4 years later, they opened up Villa Blanca in Beverly Hills. But like Villa Blanca was very posh and all white, whereas Sir was like gritty, sexy, and unique. Anyway, in March of 2010, Bravo announced that they were launching the sixth installment of the Real Housewives franchise, Beverly Hills. It featured Taylor Armstrong, Camille Grammer, ex-wife of Kelsey, Adrienne Maloof, who was married to Paul Nassif, who was on that plastic surgeon show Botched, Kim and Kyle Richards, who were child stars themselves, but they're also Paris Hilton's aunts. They're the sisters of Kathy Hilton, and Lisa Vanderpump. From the get-go, Lisa was the super posh, very wealthy friend who didn't mince words and rubbed people the wrong way. But she was one of the wealthiest cast members, so everyone just kind of rolled with it. In season 2, Taylor's husband commits suicide, and we find out that he had been severely abusive to Taylor. Like, he broke her face kind of bad. She had to have her orbital bone reconstructed. It was really bad and very
What?
sad. Yeah, it got dark very quickly.
Oh my God.
It was on the season that Brandy Glanville also joined the cast. Now, she's the one who was married to Eddie Cibrian,
Oh, I
who
know that name.
right? He cheated on her repeatedly with multiple women, including his now wife, Leanne Rimes.
Leanne Rimes.
And this was a major part of Brandy's story arc. In the third season, we start to see more of a crossover with Housewives and Lisa's restaurants, which had a lot to do with Brandy, because Brandy's ex-husband, Eddie, who had again cheated on her multiple times, and one of those women was one of Villa Blanca's waitresses, Sheena Shea. And Brandy had zero desire to be around Sheena, which starts to impact Sheena as she isn't allowed to work at any of the parties that are hosted at Sur or Villa Blanca on the show that Brandy is in attendance of. And there are a lot of parties at these restaurants because if there's anything Lisa Vanderpump is going to do, it's capitalize on screen time for her restaurants. Sheena gets very upset and wants to talk to Brandy about it, and it kind of squash things. She claims that she had no idea Eddie had a wife. Like, he wasn't in the band Three Deep or on TV or anything. Like, she couldn't Google this man. Brandy was also pregnant with their second child while he was involved with Sheena. So they sit down and they have a chat where Brandy tells Sheena that she has destroyed her marriage, even though Leanne Rimes was the one Eddie left Brandy for. And when Sheena cries, Brandy tells her she has no right to be sad. Obviously, this doesn't go the way that Sheena was hoping for, and she gets up from the table and leaves. As she enters into the kitchen of the restaurant, we seamlessly arrive at the premiere of Bravo's newest reality TV show, Vanderpump Rules. I get chills just thinking about it.
Also, this show has been going on for a long
A
time.
very long time. A very long time.
I thought the Targaryens were old.
Right as I was writing it, I was like, I'm gonna be going for longer than Amy, and she's got a bajillion Targaryens to talk about. So, like, watching all of this happen in real time was absolutely nuts. And it's during the first season that we meet the core cast of Vanderpump Rules. So, we've got Kristen Doty, a wannabe actress and model, her boyfriend Tom Sandoval, also a wannabe actor and model who shaves his forehead, Stassi Schroeder, who was also one of the youngest members of the cast and had grown up wealthy in New Orleans and had to learn how to hack it on a waitress's budget, her boyfriend Jax Taylor, who was one of the oldest cast members and was in his 30s, mooching off of the much younger Stassi, Katie Maloney, who had survived a deadly fall through a skylight only a few years prior, Sheena Shea, who constantly had some sort of ailment and was the ultimate pick-me, and obviously Lisa Vanderpump. Oh, and they all work at Sir, of course.
I have a question.
Yep.
That Tom guy, is he like an embarrassing singer?
Yes, we will get to that.
Okay. I just want to make sure I'm
He
like
is an
picturing the right
embarrassing.
person. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Okay.
The back alley of Sir could also be considered a starring character, as that is where most of the show and debauchery takes place. Now, the first season was only 8 episodes, but these kids managed to get a lot done, with Stassi and Jax being at the center of the drama. So Jax is one of the bartenders at Sir and is an overgrown man-child who Stassi eventually realizes will never grow up, so she dumps him. In swoops fellow Sir bartender Frank, who starts to court Stassi, but Jax decides that he wants her back. She's torn between the two, so Frank is like, hey, I hear Jax got a girl pregnant in Vegas while you were still together. Now, Stassi is like in her early 20s, and Jax is in his mid 30s. So you know. Obviously, Stassi loses her shit and invites everyone over to their shared apartment where she pays the rent and lets all of them drink Jax's Cristal, which I looked it up and it wasn't even the expensive Cristal, but he cried about it anyway. Then the whole gang goes to Vegas for Stassi's birthday because she makes a huge deal out of her birthday. She takes Frank as her date, which the other girls aren't happy about because they hate Frank, and I don't blame him. This guy has a punchable face, let me tell you. Jax decides to crash her birthday, people dump drinks on each other, and then Jax tries to fight Frank while shirtless in the parking lot. Lisa finds out about it and she's pissed because she has a reputation to maintain, obviously. Jax seeks solace in another Sir waitress, Laura Lee, who has a very irksome voice. It's very high-pitched and talks like this.
Oh,
Really,
I'm just thinking about how lovely that would be to listen to on
right.
repeat.
She's always talks like this and she's always upset with everybody. She
Oh
is
my
so
God.
desperate for validation that she bones Jax anywhere she can, and the two get busted diddling in the bathroom at work. Lisa is again very disappointed. Frank ends up getting fired for giving a customer a wedgie, and he and Stassi break up. Good riddance. Jax goes to narcotics.
Wait, you can't just gloss over that one. Any context for this wedgie business?
He got into an argument with a customer who I think like it was something about the bill, and Frank like kind of called him poor or something, and then he gave the guy a wedgie in front of his girlfriend and was really smug about it.
I
To the
mean,
point where he met Stassi's family for the first time and like bragged about it to her parents.
that is wild.
Yeah, he
Okay,
like did
sorry.
not get it. That's okay. Jax goes to a Narcotics Anonymous meeting with Laura Lee and realizes he's in way too deep, but she doesn't appreciate him telling her as much and loses her mind over it. Fortunately for everyone, she books a job in a big time movie and quits Sir. That movie was We're the Millers, and it definitely wasn't the break she thought it was going to be because she has like 10 credits on IMDb. Sorry, Laura Lee. The season wraps up with Jax admitting that, yeah, he did actually cheat on Stassi in Vegas, which resulted in a fetal collaboration. Obviously, everyone was very, very angry with him. Meanwhile, back on Real Housewives, Lisa was having friendship issues of her own, especially with Brandy and new series regular Yolanda Foster, otherwise known as Gigi and Bella Hadid's mom. Throughout season
Yep.
4, Lisa's friendships start to wane and the tension in the friend group comes to a head while on a group trip to Puerto Rico, where she is confronted about the state of her friendships with the other ladies. She ends up bailing in the middle of the night and doesn't see the rest of the cast until a party at the Beverly Hilton, where she kind of argues with everyone and ends her friendship with Brandy. As we move into season 2 of Vanderpump, the major arc is Tom Sandoval and Kristen Doute's cheatin' hearts. Now, in this season, we meet Ariana, who was a bartender over at Villa Blanca, but has been moved to Sur. I bet that move had nothing to do with the rumors that she had been mucking about with her bartending buddy, Tom. He had also allegedly cheated on Kristen with a bottle service skank. Kristen's words, not mine, in Vegas. In addition to Tom's cheating rumors, there are rumblings that Kristen slept with Jax while Tom was in the other room, and they were on the couch watching Game of Thrones. When worlds collide.
Crossover, multiverse.
Jax is also still trying to win Stassi back and gets her name tattooed on him. Never do this, please, anyone. Katie's boyfriend Tom Schwartz gets upgraded to season regular, and we get to watch him pour a beer on her head in Cabo while they fight. We will later find out that the Bravo team made them reshoot this scene because they missed it the first time. And yes, it is all downhill from here. Sheena finally bullies her boyfriend Mike Shea into putting a ring on her finger so that she can be smug about being the first one engaged. We spend most of the season dealing with the pressure of all the cheating rumors and Kristen being an absolute asshole to Ariana instead of breaking up with her boyfriend. Eventually, Jack slips up and admits that he did, in fact, sleep with Kristen, not once, but twice. Finally, Kristen admits it and Stassi slaps her across the face. Violence is never the answer, but I don't blame her. Because
Whoa.
this woman has been lying about this all season and gaslighting the crap out of everybody. To the point where when Jax admitted it, she looked at him like, what are you doing? Why are you admitting it? And tried to deny it. Out of her mind.
What happened with the slap? Were there like charges
Nothing.
pre nothing?
No,
She just
nothing.
took it?
She
Okay.
just took it. She knew she deserved it. Sandoval follows suit at Sheena's engagement party where he knocks Jax right in the kisser. Tom also admitted to Kristen that he had smooched Ariana in Vegas and she absolutely drags him for it, even though she was boning his best friend, not once, but twice, without protection, which actually is a chargeable offense, in case people
Yeah.
are wondering.
Yep.
While all of this was going on, Lisa, ever the glutton for punishment, returns for season 5 of Real Housewives. This is also the season where we get another Lisa, Lisa Rinna, wife to Harry Hamlin, who I have
Mm-hmm.
always thought was delightfully unhinged. During the season, Lisa opens up her latest endeavor, Pump, which is obviously featured on the show. She also is confronted with her son Max's wish to take a DNA test. Max is adopted. Ken and Lisa have 2 children. Pandora is their biological child, and then Max is their adopted son, which obviously throws her into a bit of a, what do I do? Then the whole gang goes to Amsterdam, and Brandy, whose sobriety has been in question throughout the whole season, slaps Lisa on a boat. Even Lisa can't escape the slapping. She is obviously not thrilled with this turn of events. Thankfully, when we return to Vanderpump, Kristen and Sandoval have broken up, but he's now with Ariana, which Kristen obviously hates, even though she's been shagging Sandoval's best mate, James, who is British. Boy George is his godfather, of course. Kristen decides that she's going to seek vengeance on Ariana, even though Kristen was also cheating on Sandoval with his best friend Jax, along with a bunch of other dudes. Part of her quest is flying in a woman from Miami that she claims slept with Tom while he was with Ariana. They both leave the bar while working to avoid Miami Girl, as she becomes colloquially known. Kristen also voices that she wishes that Ariana would get hit by a Mack truck, by the way, and
Lovely.
cries at a table with Tom about how much she loved him because she wants him back. Sheena gets married at the end of the season and is super smug about being the only wife in the group because that's 1,000% what being married is about. I hope everyone can hear the sarcasm on that one. And Schwartz gives Katie a ring on a string at the wedding, which makes her cry because he's a wuss who can't commit. For some reason, Lisa goes back for a 6th season of Housewives and she gets dragged throughout the entire season. She gets accused of being manipulative, of rewriting history, of saying that Yolanda has Munchausen's instead of Lyme disease. It's nuts. But we do get to see her travel to Ohio to buy a mini pony for Ken, so bonus for us. She has 2 mini ponies, Amy.
Why? Why don't
Because
I
she
have too many
and
ponies?
swans named Hanky and Panky.
Oh my
But
gosh.
But back to Vanderpump. In the 4th season, we meet Lala Kent, who starts lying to Lisa from the get-go, getting out of her SIR shifts to allegedly model in Italy when she really was a sugar baby. We also meet Brittany Rotten Hell Cartwright, who is Jax's newest infatuation. He tries to repeatedly get Brittany a job at SIR, but every time he brings her to meet Lisa, he never has the resume that Lisa has asked for repeatedly. So she ends up working at Hooters, and Jax unironically buys her new boots. But he also now thinks he has ownership of her entire body because he bought her boobs, by the way. Stassi had also had a falling out with Lisa before moving to New York to be with her terrible boyfriend Patrick, and comes crawling back to Lisa, ambushing her while she's enjoying a cuppa at Villa Blanca. This leads to one of the most iconic scenes in Vanderpump history.
Well, I was just coming to apologize, so.
Oh, you can stay there. We've got more to talk about.
What more? You hate me, Lisa. You hate me.
You know what? You're not important enough to hate. Sit down.
Meanwhile, back at Sheena's house, she discovers that Shay has an alcohol and pill addiction that he's been fleecing their bank account for. He claims it's for studio equipment, but Sheena knows the truth. Stassi manages to get back into everyone's good graces, and they all bond over their mutual hatred of Lala, who they believe is boning some old dude for a Range Rover, something that Lala vehemently denies. Kristen and James are constantly fighting because he's 22 and she's 32. Shocking it didn't work out. She ends up breaking up with him and starts dating this grifter named Carter, but still bones James on the hood of his BMW because tigers and stripes and all of that. The gang ends up going to Hawaii, where Jack steals a pair of sunglasses, which lands him in jail, and they have to pay his $11,000 bail. But then Schwartz finally proposes to Katie. Lisa returns for season 7 of Real Housewives, but it is honestly the same garbage storyline where everyone thinks Lisa's manipulative and all they do is fight with her. Although, in the final episode of the season, Lisa hosts a diamonds and rosé party, and her friend Dorit, who everybody calls Dorito, decides to go off book and dresses in all gold. Like, she gold leafs her hair, which one Vulture writer likens to Viserys Targaryen after he got a vat of molten gold poured on his head.
Oh, we did not plan this. That is crazy. The crossover
That's
is
the
nuts.
crossover. I did say his name right? Viserys?
Viserys. That's right. Named after Viserys. Named after Viserys.
Viserys, and the Viserys before him and before him. We
Oh my
start season
gosh.
5 of Vanderpump off with a bang, with Lala and James teaming up as the villains of the season, showing up to spray booze on the gang and saying things like, "Guess we haven't been working on our summer bodies." We spend most of the season on Katie and Schwartz's wedding, where he wants to spend $50 and she wants to spend $50,000. It's revealed that Lala was indeed boning an old man for that Range Rover, an elusive movie producer named Randall, who she calls Rand, and brags about him having a private jet, which she calls the Peach. They'll go to Stassi's hometown of New Orleans for their pre-wedding party, where the boys dress in drag and the issues of Schwartz's getting blackout drunk and cheating on Katie come up, as well as Sandoval's long-running feud with Katie, where he accuses her of battering Schwartz, when in reality, Sandoval hates that Katie questions him, and Schwartz is a weak man who never stands up for his partner. Regardless, the Bubbas get married, that's what they call each other, and they end up getting married in the forest. After the wedding winds down, Lisa offers the Toms the deal of a lifetime. She wants to partner with them on her next business venture, Tom Tom. Schwartz stays on brand, reluctant to commit to Lisa. Jax also went around town telling everyone that he caught Kristen chowing down on some Kentucky muffin, as Lisa put it. Like, face down on Brittany. Obviously, Brittany is upset that he is spreading lesbian rumors about his good Christian girlfriend. It doesn't help that Brittany's mom is a frosted lipstick wearing homophobe. Sheena's marriage is also donezo by the end of... Yes?
Wait, before you move on, would she wear bubbles?
She definitely would wear bubbles.
Okay, thanks.
She's probably wearing it. She probably has 5 tubes. Sheena's marriage is also donezo by the end of the season, even after she made Shay pee in a cup repeatedly and did her pitiful attempt at supporting him throughout his addiction, which was telling him he doesn't have to be sober. It's just about moderation. Nobody can see Amy rolling her eyes right now, but she is, because it's ridiculous.
Well, they might be able to hear it.
They might, yeah. You roll them into the back of your head, Star. Lisa returns for season 8 of Real Housewives, where she launches her dog rescue, Vanderpump Dogs, but everything else is boring. So moving on. Season 6 of VPR sees Sheena in a new relationship with Rob, who she never shuts up about. Rob is a real man with a real job who can hang a TV in under 7 minutes. She timed him. I wonder why Shay never felt supported in their marriage. Anyway, Jax is back in the group's crosshairs as rumors begin to buzz about his dalliance with another server. That's a server who works at SUR, by the way. Faith. Lala and James's friendship hits a wall when he calls Randall the fat man, and Lala thinks he's mad because she ate all of his girlfriend Raquel's pasta, which leads to another iconic VPR moment.
Lala, listen, I'm sorry.
I told you that I ate Raquel's pasta, and that's how you come for me?
It was
What
like
the
a
is wrong with you?
It was a dig.
What the is wrong with you?
Dig.
It was a joke. Stop coming for people who have your back. I told you I had a bite of her pasta, and then the whole thing was devoured, and that's what you
Why
go
is
off
it about
on.
the damn pasta? Get over the damn pasta. Read between the lines. It ain't about the pasta. It's not about the pasta. It's not about the pasta.
Apparently, pasta is a Vanderpump code for a drug that one might call snow, which makes a lot of sense when you rewatch the entire show with that context, just saying. Now back to the cheating of it all. It turns out that Jax did cheat on Brittany with Faith, and that Faith recorded their post-coital conversation where he said some unfavorable things about his missus, like the fact that he would never marry her. She tells him to rot in hell and kicks him out of the house. Schwartz gets outed for cheating on Katie again. Sheena gets her back up when someone says that they saw Rob smooch in another lady, and her defense is, but Rob doesn't even like to kiss me. Anyway, Sheena. And James is rumored to have mucked about with his bestie, Logan, while his girlfriend Raquel was away at school, which he vehemently denies. Brittany ends up never leaving Jack, surprise, surprise, after his very public betrayal, and even throws him a birthday party. Then Lisa returns for season 9 of Housewives, and this one is good because her friend Dorit gets busted for rehoming a dog named Lucy Applejuice. Why not Apple Juicy? That's my question. That she adopted from Vanderpump Dogs instead of returning the dog back to Vanderpump Dog Foundation. Rumors start to swirl that Lisa set up Dorit to embarrass her and even leak the story herself. Kyle Richards confronts Lisa at her house at Villa Rosa, the audacity. Lisa kicks her out and quits the show and refuses to attend the reunion, saying, the objective of the reunion is to reunite, right? And I have no inclination to reunite with the woman who have been harassing me for 10 months now. Blessed be, now she can focus on her island of misfit toys. Jax and Brittany kick off season 7 with Jax's proposal. He uses the money he got from his dead dad to buy Brittany an I'm sorry I cheated, an engagement ring. Their friends surprise them with an engagement party where Brittany yells, I'm engaged, off the same balcony that she was sitting on when she heard the Faith tapes. Real full circle moment. James is still drinking too much and calling people fat, which gets him fired. He gets fired a lot, honestly, which is why I just haven't mentioned it every time. Sheena and Rob unsurprisingly broke up, and now she's dating barback Adam, who she tried to hook Brittany up with after Jax cheated. I do not get why girls do this. If you want him, have him. Stop trying to put him on somebody else. Anyway, Adam will diddle her, but he won't date her, and she tries to hide her disappointment by telling everyone that they're just best friends. But then she buys him a penguin because he loves penguins and names it Spot because that's Adam's last name. Then they have this really uncomfortable conversation where she asks him if he loves her, and he says no, and then she asks him again, and he's like, "No, I don't love you." And she looks him dead in the eye and goes, "So you don't love me?" It's amazing. The group goes to Mexico before the launch of Tom Tom, and Schwartz and Katie have a horrific fight because he got upgraded to first class and she got left in economy. She tells him that he never listens to her, and he says that he doesn't like the sound of her voice. And everyone can hear them fighting because they're on a balcony at this resort. We also meet Beau, who is the nicest of nice guys. He's now dating Stassi, but Stassi lets her dark passenger take over and they fight. But fortunately for her, Beau's mom is a therapist and that man knows how to talk about feelings and work through them. Season 8 kicks off with everybody buying houses in Valley Village right down the street from each other, and they spend most of the season roasting Tom and Ariana for not having any furniture. We meet new cast members, including Tom Tom manager Max, who had a thing with Sheena, so she bought him an Apple Watch for Thanksgiving because he couldn't afford one, and she brings it up repeatedly. But now he's interested in Server, Dana, so obviously Sheena wants to make Dana's life miserable. Even though she's totally over Max, they're just best friends. We find out that Schwartz and Katie are not legally married because Schwartz is so adverse to commitment that he didn't file the paperwork. We also find out that Brittany's pastor has been making homophobic remarks online, and Brittany and Jax pretend that they had no idea, even though people told them about it months before. They end up firing the pastor after getting pressure from the group and getting Lance Bass to marry them after screaming at Sandoval for calling them out on their bullshit. Sandoval's questioning gets him booted from the wedding party, then the wedding completely, and then reinstated all over again. But he's still the number 2 top. Schwartz and Katie and the gang head to Las Vegas to get the Bubbas married for good. Schwartz misplaces the paperwork again, but eventually it does get filed under Lisa's watchful eye. They even did a prenup. He made them get a prenup, and then he didn't file the paperwork, even though they had no assets to protect at the point. But anyway, Brittany and Jax get married, which is great because it felt like we'd spent 20 years talking about this infernal wedding, and Beau proposes to Stassi with a vintage Tiffany ring at the Hollywood Forever cemetery, which endeared me to him, obviously. With the 9th season came massive changes. Stassi and Kristen were let go after a past incident involving Faith arose. Now, they had seen TV from a security camera that showed a Black woman committing a crime, and they said it was Faith. It was not Faith. They got fired for it. Stassi has made amends, has apologized profusely since, and Kristen is Kristen. Yeah.
I think they got what they deserve. There we go.
Yeah, definitely. And I think Stassi definitely knows that she did. Her and Beau went and bought like a house, and her and Beau have stayed off of reality TV since. Kristen, however, not as much.
Right.
At the end of the previous season, Jax made a comment to Lisa along the lines of Vanderpump Rules being his show, which Lisa obviously didn't appreciate. He then went completely off the rails during the reunion, was like a total rage monster, was really aggressive to Andy Cohen, who signed their paychecks. And then Jax and Brittany claimed that they opted to leave the show after season 8, but I think we can all read between the lines. Despite this, the cast were all smiles as they headed to Coachella after missing the festival the year before due to, that old pandemic. Little did they know that James had actually planned Rochella, where he planned on proposing to Raquel. Oh, and Tom Sandoval helped him pay for half of it, which was weird, but it'll get weirder. The Toms also reveal that they are building their own bar, which they want to call Schwartz and Sandy's. This is the beginning of the end for Schwartz and Katie. She hated the name, and Sandoval was verbally abusive to her about it. Like, she said that the name sucked, and it turned out that Schwartz was the one who said the name sucked, but he threw her under the bus because he's such a great husband. Katie and Schwartz have always talked about opening up a sandwich shop together, but since he was busy with the other Tom, she ends up opening up a shop with Ariana. Oh, and Lala and Sheena have both had fetal collaborations and have become you wouldn't understand, you're not a parent people, which is just really endearing. Towards the end of the season, James and Raquel host a massive engagement party that Sheena and her fetal collaborator Brock talk about getting secretly married at. This big thing that James has paid for. James finds out about the plan and loses his mind, but it doesn't really matter because James and Raquel reveal during the first reunion episode that they are engaged no more, and everybody is shocked. She's still wearing the ring. She hands it back to him on camera. It's so uncomfortable. But little did they know that Raquel had even more surprises up her puffy princess sleeve. As we enter into season 10, we find that the Bubbas are broken up. Katie finally had enough of being Schwartz's number 2 and walked. And honestly, I couldn't be prouder of her. Now, a lot happens in the season, but we're going to focus on the number 1 betrayal. After breaking up with James, the group rallies around Raquel and she finds really great friends in Ariana and Tom. She also starts a flirtatious relationship with Tom Schwartz, despite the fact that it makes Katie very uncomfy, and the fact that Katie and Tom had agreed to not dip into the friend group after they separated. But Raquel pursues Schwartz anyway, and it's very odd and it's very uncomfortable and it doesn't make sense. She ends up kissing him while the group is in Mexico for Sheena and Brock's wedding, which really upsets Katie. Like, she is livid, and Raquel is just petulant and doesn't care. Despite her pursuit of Schwartz, rumors start to buzz in the group that Raquel and the other Tom Sandoval. Despite her pursuit of Schwartz, rumors start to buzz in the group about Raquel and the other Tom Sandoval, to the point where Ken, Lisa's husband, even gets in on the hot goss, saying that he heard Raquel slept over at Sandoval's while Ariana was out of town. Imagine him gossiping while holding a little Pomeranian with alopecia. It was amazing. Now, the editing on this was genius, as they had Lala piecing together the scene like an old-timey detective after James's girlfriend Allie said that she saw Raquel and Tom dancing at the Abbey in the wee hours of the morning. And Sheena, of course, because she's the ultimate pick-me, is like, what? There's nothing wrong with that. Now, Amy, would you be okay with your husband dancing with a young lady at, I don't know, the Canby at 2 a.m. in the morning while you weren't there?
No.
That's what I thought. As the season progresses, Raquel becomes even more unhinged. She starts asking Ariana about her sex life with Sandoval and picks fights with Katie's mom as she boldly goes after Schwartz. But as we all know, where there's smoke, there's fire. And one night while watching Tom perform with his terrible cover band, The Most Extras, Ariana happened to see a screen recording on Tom's phone that captured Raquel in a rather compromising position, and thus Scandival was born. Yeah.
What is born?
Scandival.
Oh, wow.
The Tom Sandoval scandal.
Got
Ariana
it.
is obviously incensed. She feels immensely betrayed. It becomes apparent that Schwartz had been covering for both, sacrificing his friendship with Katie in favor of Tom, which is not surprising at this point. And then, of course, there's no remorse Rachel, which is her given name that everyone goes back to calling her after the betrayal, who didn't care about burning both Ariana and Katie to get what she wanted. There's even one scene where Rachel is in a little boutique and she's treating herself, but buying herself a solid gold lightning bolt necklace. And we find out that Tom was also wearing a lightning bolt earring, and that's how they let each other know that they loved each other. They spent Christmas together at Tom's family home in St. Louis, so his mother knew about her. They've lied. They said that they weren't together, even though there's pictures of them together. He had zero remorse for what happened. He was blaming Ariana, saying that, well, you haven't had sex with me, which is the same thing that he did to Kristen when they were together. He was like telling people really intimate details about their life, about how the only time she had sex with him, she kept her top on. This is how season 10 ends. We also have Lala, who's totally angry because I don't know if you remember, but Lala and Randall had a big thing because it turned out that Randall was running a casting couch that he owed. There's a big thing where he owed 50 Cent like $1 million, and 50 Cent was tweeting at him that you owe me $1 million. And Randall posted a picture of himself on a treadmill with all those like little like test sticky things on him going, Fofty, I'm Fofty, I've got your money, like something like that. And everybody was making fun of it, and James made fun of it, and Lala like had his head for making fun of it, and then it turns out he's been cheating on her. the whole time. And they did a reunion where she was crying and Lisa was like, you lose them how you get them. And they made there's a documentary about it and everything, but then Ariana gets cheated on, and the entire season 11 is Ariana getting Dancing with the Stars, Ariana on Chicago, Ariana getting all these deals, all this sympathy, no one saying you lose them how you get them to her, even though she was messing around with Tom while he was with Kristen. And so Lala the whole season is just enraged that she didn't get the opportunities that Ariana had. So she decides to make her own story arc by getting artificially inseminated because she wants another baby. And everyone theorizes it's because her daughter Ocean with Randall isn't allowed to be on camera. And if she's not on camera, then she doesn't get scenes with her.
Oh my God.
And at the end of season 11, so Ariana refuses to be in a house with Tom. They still sharing their house in Valley Village, but Tom has this assistant named Anne who totally gets thrown in between the two of them. He's so disrespectful of Ariana. He just thinks that she should get over it. Rachel, meanwhile, is burning everybody on the podcast. She's saying that Tom groomed her, even though she was in her late 20s. Tom groomed her. She goes to a mental health place and like does all of this stuff. Her dog Graham that she had with James, that was a grad gift to her, goes to the Vanderpump Foundation. Her parents surrendered the dog, claiming that he bites. So Lisa reunites him with Graham. And they're like, that's super sus that she like gave up Graham. She wouldn't let him have Graham. It's just the whole thing is a mess. And at the end of the season, Ariana's like, they're trying to force her to have scenes with Tom because they know that they don't have a show if she doesn't have scenes with Tom. And she walks off. She's like, no, because she's fine. She's financially solvent. She also, the whole season, Lala is like, why are you in the house with Tom? Why don't you leave then? She's like, because of legal reasons. I haven't left. And Lala's like, well, I left. Well, you didn't own the house.
Right.
Randall didn't own the house. Randall has no money. And then the reunion was nuts. Lala just like went for Ariana's jugular, and she was just so calm and like controlled throughout the entire thing. And now nobody knows if Vanderpump's happening. Ariana is somewhere tropical filming Love Island. She's the host. So usually they would be filming Vanderpump right now, but they're not. And Sheena just bought like a $2 million house in Valley Village, and Lala just bought a $3 million house. They both have other houses in Palm Springs and no stable income. And so they're not getting a Vanderpump paycheck. And apparently there's a blind item that Lala was begging Bravo to put her on The Valley, which is a spin-off. It doesn't have anything to do with Lisa, though. That's why I didn't mention it. It's a spin-off where they've rehired Kristen and Jax back. And so Lala's trying to get on The Valley so she can pay for these houses because, you know, it's totally normal to buy 2 houses in California during these inflationary times without a stable income.
It sounds like they all need a little bit of a break from one another, though. I think this is a good thing. Finances,
apparently, like,
put aside.
Lala's about to have her baby. Katie and her, I don't think talk. They had a massive falling out. Katie and Schwartz have basically had a falling out. Schwartz is dating a girl in her 20s. He's in his 40s. Oh, and my favorite thing though, Amy, is that because Sheena just bought a house, right? Sheena's lived in an apartment this whole entire time. Previously, she was living in like a townhouse in Marina Del Rey that she was renting. She did not own them. So Katie and Tom, they sold their massive house in Valley Village. They both moved into condos. I think Tom and Ariana have sold their house finally, maybe. I'm not sure, but Ariana just bought a house. And Sheena had the audacity to be like, oh, it's so weird how like, you know, everyone's going backwards and back to their condos. And it's just like, I don't really want to go to your condo and do a manicure. You were just in a condo.
Good Lord.
You were just in a condo.
Hey, Megan.
Mm-hmm.
Who of the season 10 cast of Vanderpump Rules would ride Vhagar?
Oh. Wait, which one's Vhagar again?
Vhagar is Aemon's ride. It's the biggest dragon in Westeros right now.
in Game of the Dragons?
Yes.
Is that the
One-eyed Aemon, the one that took
with
down
the eye
Meleys.
patch
Yeah.
that likes to go see the ladies of the night?
One lady of the
One
night in
lady of the
particular.
lady of the night.
The lady of the
And
night.
that dragon that's, sorry, no spoilers, but spoilers, that's no more.
No, the dragon that took out the dragon of that's no more.
Oh,
So Meleys and Sunfire. I don't know if Sunfire is totally out,
that
but
is that the biggest, oldest dragon?
yes, Vhagar
Oh,
is
who would
like
Lisa Vanderpump would ride that dragon like 1,000%. And Tom or Ken would be on the back with Jiggy, their dog with alopecia and a little sweater.
well,
I actually don't know
Sunfire.
if Jiggy's still alive or not. He
Oh
might just be in my
God.
head.
This got dark. Well, Sunfire, which is Aegon's ride steed dragon, is considered the most beautiful of the dragons.
That's a dragon that's no more.
I believe so.
Right. Okay.
It's so sad, the one that got torn up and
Yeah.
like, yeah.
That we were both very mad about.
Yeah, I can't
I think she
watch
would definitely
Vhagar.
Vhagar. Although
Okay.
Katie's got really emo lately, so maybe Katie would fight her for Vhagar.
Okay. All right. Good to know.
Because Lisa's definitely the she would have a rhinestone eye patch on
Nice.
and 6-inch heels. And she'd get shit done.
Yeah, with Vhagar especially.
Mm-hmm. Hey Amy,
Yes.
I was thinking about how it's summer and how like I think like myself, you very much enjoy watching movies per season. And I was just wondering what some of your favorite summertime movies are to watch. Because I know like some of mine are like heavyweights,
Yeah,
right?
that's a good one.
Rookie of the Year, like anything baseball, League of Their Own.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah,
Uh,
anything
right?
camp.
Do you
Yeah.
remember The Big Green with Bug Hall,
Yes. Yes.
the soccer movies, Sandlot,
Yeah. Sandlot's so good.
Jaws?
Yes, I was just talking about Jaws.
I love
Um,
Jaws.
yeah, I was talking to my friend about it because she was a younger woman, maybe in her late teens or mid-teens when it came out, because I'm really curious about people who were around when these seminal films were put out for the first time, like what the craze was. Because Jaws, that wasn't anything like it at that time. And she said it was wild. And then also she was talking about Star Wars because she
Mm-hmm.
was around when that first came out, and she said it was nuts. And then I also always bring up like The Exorcist because that is
Mm-hmm.
another one that was just the only movie my dad ever admitted that scared the shit out of him. And
Which
I
is
can't
saying a lot.
imagine. Saying quite a
I think
bit.
your dad is unflappable.
Yeah. But I think anything with religious
Mm-hmm.
undertones and possession is very, very, very scary. So there are some horrors too, like camp-based horrors in the summer
Friday
that are
the
fun.
13th.
Final Girls,
Oh
is
yeah,
my favorite.
that's such a good movie.
Like comedy, horror, like I love
Mm-hmm.
that kind of stuff. Um, sometimes I'm in the mood, depending on where it happens in the cycle of the year, where I want to rewatch a series. You know what I
What's your
mean?
summer
Like,
series?
I don't even know if it's summer
I feel like this
specific.
summer I Turned Pretty is one, but I also wasn't really a big fan of those adaptations that much.
You didn't like the TV
I
series?
preferred, if we're going for a Jenny Han adaptation, I preferred To All the Boys I Loved Before, which I also think is kind of summery in a
Yeah, it
way,
is.
right?
I preferred The Summer I Turned Pretty.
Mm,
Even though this last season there were some things that were
I
bothersome.
just preferred the books better.
Yeah, I also find that that particular story with the brother triangle, like,
Mm-hmm.
kind of not great in when you actually are seeing it. Like there's a difference between reading it and making up your own mind, because you make these concessions when you're reading it and you imagine things very differently and you go, oh, well, it's because of this. And like, you're putting yourself in. But then when it's realized and it's very visually specific and actor choices are very, very specific, I find it just undeniably uncomfortable and I can't get over it. You know what I mean? Like the brother thing. I'm like, I just don't think I could ever. When in the book, it wasn't a problem for me. I was like, this is cool. Like, I
Because you're not
totally
seeing them in
understand
the
it.
same space. And like, I think it's like, it's almost like that they're in the same space, but seeing their reactions to it and being like, oh, those are two
Yeah.
very real people that are having this tension and they're brothers. And that's
Yeah. I think that's what's going on. So I will admit, even though I do love, I mean, the pilot and the first season for me was so wonderful. I think it was Jesse Peretz or something that directed a few episodes. He worked on Girls, and it just had this really amazing tone and balance for me. And I loved the music choices, and I loved how it was shot. I thought the cast was really good. And I loved the mother storyline against the
Mhm.
daughter storyline. Like I really love the
I
duality
don't the
of that.
actress who plays her mom is so good.
She's so great. And then obviously in the second season, we don't have that friendship at the crux of everything anymore because she's passed away and I really miss it. So there is
And
something
isn't
about
that
this. Yeah.
Canadian Rachel Blanchard?
It sure is.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it sure is.
I also love
Um,
Babysitter's Club,
oh yeah, I mean,
the
of
original
course.
1995 classic.
Yeah, of course. Um, you're really like nostalgia summer
I love a nostalgia summer.
now and then.
Yeah, now and then, definitely.
I don't think I've watched anything old this summer yet. It's hard for me to I'm into House of Dragons right now, which is a very moody, non-summery show.
I don't think they really have summer vacay in Westeros. Is that where they're located?
Yeah, seriously.
Like we're
Um
gonna take the dragons to the beach,
yeah.
go for a little walk, get some ice cream. Oh, Blue Crush. Blue Crush is one of my favorite movies of all time.
Oh yeah.
That's such a good movie. The way like I'm terrified of the ocean, but also wanted to be the type of girly who would be like wake up at 4 a.m. and check the wave report after
I
sleeping on
know.
and go to the Volcom house.
Kate Bosworth and those different colored eyes.
Oh my gosh. She was like at her peak.
But also, did you hear about the actual surfer that was
The actor,
featured
yeah.
in that passed
They're like
away?
shark attacks have been at an all-time high. I was watching Shark Week. It was
Yeah.
last week, 2 weeks ago. Terrifying.
Yeah, they're coming for us. A series that is, my favorite series, maybe of all time, My Brilliant Friend. Because it's set in Italy, there
Mm-hmm.
is something, and there's lots of beachy, like like there's something about that. And the film that Maggie Gyllenhaal directed with Olivia Colman it's an adaptation of the same author. Oh, and Normal People,
Normal people?
Sally Rooney, Normal People.
Mm-hmm.
That to me is summary. I'm guessing like more romance.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean? Like fun, not even rom-coms, but like anything with a bit of romance laced in is nice.
Oh, do you remember Adventureland? I'm not a big Kristen Stewart fan.
I don't think I've ever seen that.
Oh, it takes place at like a theme park in 1987.
Oh, I like
So
that.
it's got that nostalgia to it. It's got Jesse Eisenberg in it.
Okay.
That one was pretty good. So we've talked about the Targaryens. We've talked
Yep.
about the Vanderpumps, as
Mm-hmm.
Amy likes to call them, and our favorite summer movies, which dragon we think Lisa Vanderpump would ride. I think we've covered the whole gambit.
We have.
So, Amy, thanks for hanging out with me.
Oh, it's a pleasure as always.
I know my company is amazing.
It is amazing.
So,
Have a great day, everyone.
and may the cult
Be with you.